Masters of war. You that build the big guns. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You had behind the big guns. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You had behind walls guns. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You don't have to take it no more. You know the rich, they always want more. Keep the rich. Big guns. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. Masters of war. You that build the big guns. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You had behind walls. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You had behind walls. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You that build the death planes. You that build all the bombs. You had behind walls.
United States is still the greatest purveyor of violence. As we had witnessed, Ukraine could not continue its war with Russia without US support. Israel could not do its Gaza genocide for 15 months without bombs and planes supplied by United States. We are here to remind our congressmen and senators that we need to stop these wars. We need to join the Nuclear Weapons Ban Treaty. After the event, some of us will be delivering our demands to the two senators' offices here, Senator Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff, and Jim Costa's office. In 1985, Reagan and Gorbachev agreed that a nuclear war cannot be won and it must never be fought. At that time, the five nuclear states, USA, USSR, China, France, and United Kingdom, agreed to that statement that it should never be fought, and they agreed that they will reduce the risk of war and reduce the nuclear weapons. Unfortunately, some of our politicians and many of our leaders in Pentagon think they can win a limited nuclear war. It is asinine. There is no such thing as a limited nuclear war. When a nuclear war starts, it is the end of our civilization. Thank you. Now we have current board member and past president of Peace Fresno, Camille Russell, who will talk to us about the doomsday clock.
We have this wonderful model right here that represents the doomsday clock. So as you can see, that's where it is right now. But as I speak, Ken Hudson is going to help us by moving the hands to make it show where it has been in other places during the nuclear age. The doomsday clock is a metaphorical representation of how close humanity is to self-destruction. It was created in 1947 for the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists that was inspired by discussions among scientists who had worked on the Manhattan Project that created the first bomb. They were extremely concerned about the urgent need to control nuclear weapons. The clock uses the imagery of a countdown to midnight to convey the urgency of threats of a nuclear war, which will end the destruction of life on Earth as we know it. That's all life on Earth. Within just a few months or years, all of the planet's animals and people, everything we know here that's part of our environment will be destroyed. The clock's original setting in 1947 was 7 seconds to midnight. Oops. Not seconds. 7 seconds. Fiddlesticks. 7 minutes to midnight. Okay, that was when it was first created. That means in 7 minutes, a nuclear bomb will explode, beginning events that will end life. It has since been moved backward and forward many times. The farthest time it was 17 minutes to midnight in 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed. Due to wars and geopolitical crises in many parts of the world, the clock has been moving closer and closer to midnight, and now it is at 89 seconds to midnight. The closest that it has ever been. Just yesterday, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists made their annual report and moved the doomsday clock to that position of 89 seconds. If a nuclear weapon is launched by any country, and if it is sent to one location, life on Earth is doomed. That's why we are here today, because most people don't have any idea of how close we are, according to the experts, to an actual nuclear holocaust.
Next, we have Teresa Castillo from Women's International League for Peace and Freedom.
Hello. So yeah, here's the sign about what Camille just said. I am Teresa. I'm the branch chair of WILF, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. And we have a disarm committee that it's a national committee as well as local. Our local branch chair for disarm is at Fresno State right now with an event. So she also is part of the group Back from the Brink, and this is another organization that focuses on the nuclear issue. So, like everyone has said, we want to make it very clear that what we've all known, a nuclear war is going to annihilate the world. But we have nuclear power that is the new energy source, if you will, that is being presented as the clean energy, the cheaper energy, the energy that we need to use. And nuclear weapons come from nuclear power. So do we really want to endorse nuclear power? No, not at all. Nuclear power is, well, Back from the Brink says, nuclear weapons are the most extreme example of power consolidated into the hands of a small number of people and countries. So that power is used against us. We also have to realize that these few countries with nuclear weapons have very unstable leadership, including our own government. And it takes one mistake or one individual in power who thinks they're going to show the other country who has the upper hand to, let one of these go, and then it's two evil people holding a gun to each other's head, and our world ends as we know it. So if we don't take it seriously, that's basically, we won't have our lives. So why do we care? What's the aftermath? We don't have a second country, a second world, a second universe to live in. If we let our legislators continue to go unchecked, then they do as they choose. So this is a little bit outdated, but this is the Wilf pamphlet. It was printed 4 years ago, that's why it's outdated. It's asking that we work with our mayors for peace, to abolish nuclear weapons by 2020. Well, we haven't done that. So that means we have to go back to step one, educate ourselves about the UN Nuclear Ban Treaty, which the US has not signed on to. Number two, ask our senators to ratify the Nuclear Weapons Ban Treaty. And our representatives, HR 2419 is the act to abolish Nuclear Weapons Abolition and Economic and Energy Conservation Act. You can join a WILF group, us locally, you can join the national group, you can join Back from the Brink, you can join ICANN, you can do it on your own. What we need are voices, and the voices aren't there. If we had, I believe the statistics is something like 3.5% of our population. That's very small. If we had that many people letting our representatives know that we disapprove of something, we will have change happen. That's very low. The few of us know people, we can expand this. I don't need to keep saying why. We all know why. That's why you're here today. Pick up information, it's at the table, and see what you can do.
Hey, next, get ready for the die-in. Ann Merrill, current Vice President of Peace Fresno, will explain what it is and how we will do it. So, come on in.
Hi, everyone. Whoops. As Dan said, I'm Ann Merrill with Peace Fresno.
Get close to the mic.
And I will be leading you today in our No War, No Nuclear Weapons die-in. So a die-in is a form of nonviolent public protest. We are here to dramatize the horrors of war and nuclear annihilation by lying down upon the cardboard mats as if we were corpses. Or you can sit in a chair and slump over the table or stand with your head bowed, whatever works with you. So, we are here to demand that Trump and Congress stop the wars, genocide, and the threat of nuclear weapons. It's time to join with over half of the countries in the world and sign the treaty to ban nuclear weapons. And there's more information about that on the table, along with other steps the U.S. can take to make the world a safer place. Our government acts as if it's possible to win a limited nuclear war. We are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to upgrade the U.S. nuclear arsenal, while the nuclear weapons we already have are enough to blow up the world several times over. And the U.S. practices nuclear war games with NATO, where many of our intercontinental ballistic missiles with nuclear warhead capabilities are stationed.
as if we can win a nuclear war. But nuclear weapons are not ordinary weapons. Modernizing our nuclear weapons does not make us safer. It only promotes the perception that a nuclear war can be fought and won. And that is a false narrative. With our launch on warning policy, an intercontinental ballistic missile, once launched, intentionally or by accident, can't be redirected or recalled. As long as there are nuclear weapons, there is a risk of nuclear war. It can happen in a few short minutes. So the details for the die-in are pretty basic. First, I will move the hands of the doomsday clock to midnight, and then there will be a nuclear attack siren will go off, indicating that the catastrophic end of the world as we know it is upon us. At which point, everybody turns into a corpse and we fall to the ground. So we have some mats there. There's mats over there. I got a couple mats here. Whatever you want to grab, kind of get ready to grab them at that time and find your sweet spot on the ground. As we lie on the ground, there will be a moment of silence as we contemplate our annihilation. Then there will be music to uplift our souls. And finally, we will rise up chanting, "No war, no nukes." All right. And now, as the world engages in the unimaginable war and genocide and hovers on the brink of nuclear disaster, the doomsday clock strikes midnight.
I think you will find when your death is told. All the money you made will not buy back your soul. And I hope that you die, and your death will come soon. I'll follow your casket by the pale afternoon. I'll watch while you're lowered down to your deathbed, and I'll stand over your grave till I'm sure that you're dead.
Great simulation of the end of the world. So we have 4 speakers representing 4 of the different coalition, 4 or 5 of different Fresno Peace Coalition. First, we have Kat McElroy, who is the vice chair of Fresno County Libertarian Party. Here's Kat.
I give a brief background of the Libertarian Party to illustrate our commitment to the demands that are presented here today and the principles of peace that are put forward by the Fresno Peace Coalition. At the very beginning of the party's existence, over 50 years ago, during the height of the Vietnam War, libertarians devoted a significant portion of the new party's platform to the ideals of non-interventionist foreign policy. Today, our platform includes the following statement on international affairs. American foreign policy should emphasize peace with all nations, entangling alliances with none. We would end the current U.S. government policies on foreign intervention, including military and economic aid, tariffs, economic sanctions, and regime change. We recognize the right of all people to resist tyranny and defend themselves and their rights. We condemn the use of force, and especially the use of terrorism, against the innocent, regardless of whether such acts are committed by governments or by political or revolutionary groups. This year, our party is working with Bring Our Troops Home to pass Defend the Guard legislation in state legislatures across the nation. This is intended to end American involvement in endless wars, and I hope you would consider joining up with them. You can help in any state across the country and also help us here in California to get this legislation passed. Violence by government in the form of wars of aggression are a violation of the non-aggression principle that we hold fundamental to our founding principles in the Libertarian Party. Scott Horton's book, Provoked, outlines this philosophy with a particular focus on the disastrous consequences of US interventionism in NATO, Ukraine, and Russia. His work emphasizes that wars, especially those driven by American foreign policy, not only waste resources, but cause deep instability, suffering, and long-term violence, and bring us closer to the brink of nuclear war. As Dan said, there is no such thing as a limited nuclear war, and one of our founders of the Libertarian Party, Murray Rothbard, in Ethics to Liberty, explained that nuclear weapons cannot be targeted to avoid innocent life. They are therefore un-libertarian and against just war theory on their face. Likewise, on the issue of Israel, we must also acknowledge the ongoing cycle of violence perpetuated by unchecked military aid. In addition to the heartbreaking death and destruction this has enabled in Gaza, it makes Americans less safe. The consequences of this aid was explained in stark terms by Ron Paul when he explained blowback to Rudy Giuliani. He said, "They attack us because we are over there." I stand here proudly today with members of all the organizations that have joined the Fresno Peace Coalition. The new administration must end the war in Ukraine, demand a ceasefire in Israel, and join the nuclear weapons ban treaty.
Thank you, Kat. Next, we have Joshua Shirley from Veterans for Peace.
All right, hello everyone. So I'm Josh Shirley. So I'm here representing, along with Dan Yassin, the Fresno Center for Nonviolence, as well as Veterans for Peace. And Veterans for Peace is an organization of military veterans dedicated to exposing the true costs and consequences of war and militarism. And as we all have heard today, of course, there is no greater cost and consequence of our militaristic posture worldwide than the proliferation of nuclear weaponry and the unimaginable destructive capacity and the global devastation that would be wrought if we ever crossed that line into a nuclear exchange. As a young infantry soldier, we trained sometimes in the use of chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear warfare. And it was some of the most serious and sober training because it was always clear that all of this is a moot point. That if a nuclear exchange ever does kick off, that frankly, the lucky ones will be the first ones to go. There is no, as it's been said, there is no such thing as a victory in a nuclear exchange. And it only gets worse from there. It was a doomsday scenario, quite literally, and pretty terrifying. And as scary and as dangerous as times often were during the Cold War, what we are facing now today is much more dangerous. Back then, as bad as it was, we had official channels of diplomacy to avert this kind of disaster. That by and large worked. In the sense that it was understood that it was madness, right? It was there was even an acronym, MAD, Mutually Assured Destruction. Fast forward to today, and we have people in power who speak and make foreign policy decisions with such recklessness that it is frankly criminal. We see the folly of this current U.S. doctrine that says that we can use these weapons in a limited capacity, and not to worry, we can deter aggression from whoever it might be, Russia, China, take your pick. How? By striking first. Something that used to be considered insanity for good reason. they believe, or they say, I'm not sure how they can believe it, that, wait, we have tactical nuclear weapons now, right? We have small, low-yield weapons that are able to be used against adversaries, and this will deter and de-escalate conflict. This notion of de-escalation by escalation. And if that sounds like stupidity, it's for a very good reason. It is. And the dirty little secret here is that militarily, our capacity to fight and win wars is not what most folks think it is. A lot of that, frankly, is hype. We have been sold a bill of goods. And so when we are faced with strategic setbacks, if we do engage in these conventional wars, the question is, what next? Will these lunatics go for the nuclear tools in the toolbox? And nothing about our current situation is encouraging. It's pretty discouraging, and that pertains to both sides of the aisle, quite frankly. So the only thing that is encouraging is the fact that people are rising up, beginning to wake up, as they always have, but we need more of this. We need a mass movement that, among other things, demands that we reduce and eventually eliminate these weapons in the short term, get back into treaties like the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty, ratify others like the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which the U.S. has never ratified, and most importantly, join the TPNW, the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons at the United Nations, along with the majority of nations in the world and the overwhelming majority of the global population. Again, there is no such thing as winnable nuclear war. The only wise nuclear strategy to ensure global security is eliminating these weapons. We must do this. Our very survival depends on it. The clock is ticking. 89 seconds to midnight. For peace and planet, we have to stop this madness. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Next, we have Stan Santos, a long-term peace and justice activist and a leader of Russia Against War.
Thank you. Just to make a correction, Russia Against War is a horizontal organization, and we share all of the direction and leadership, and I'm really proud with Gloria Hernandez and Lori, who have been the principal subscribers and architects of that. But right now, I hope I'm not, I don't want to change the direction or the value of this moment, but I want to bring in the fact that Israel has been a leading proliferation agent in the world, in the Middle East specifically. But if you were to compare the amount of nuclear weapons that Israel has, all of this has been developed since the 60s under contracts with France, who helped them develop their first nuclear reactors that were supposed to have been used for peacetime purposes. However, since then, we should probably ask France why they have disengaged from Israel in supporting that development. Obviously, it's clear that with the material that was created through those reactors, as well as the fact that Israel diverted 300 kilograms of weapons-grade uranium from the United States Naval Propulsion Reactor in the late 1960s, that they have enough fissile material to make up to or over 200 weapons. What we do know with fair degree of certainty is they have 90 developed nuclear weapons, correct? But experts say that it's very likely in the range over 200 up to 250 nuclear weapons that are ready to deploy at this time. And if that's true, then that would place Israel in about the number 5 spot in the world, behind the United States, Russia, I believe it's France. Like, I think France is, it would place them right between France and the United Kingdom. I think that France has about 290 and the United Kingdom has about 220 nuclear weapons. So that would place them roughly in the number 5 position. And, you know, if Israel is capable of dropping 75,000 and 100,000 tons of destructive force on Gaza, this an area that's not even the size of Fresno County, do we doubt for a minute that Israel will not deploy nuclear weapons? Of course they won't deploy it in Gaza. Why? Because they want Gaza. Of course they won't deploy it in the West Bank because they want the West Bank. Would they deploy it against Iran? Would they have deployed it against Libya or Syria, or the fortitude to resist or attack them? I figured that without a doubt we can say that Israel is the biggest nuclear proliferator and the biggest nuclear danger in the Middle East. But just remember, according to this same source of verified statistics, Hiroshima and Nagasaki received the equivalent of between 15 and 20,000 tons of TNT, explosives, dropped on them to end World War II, supposedly. And Israel has dropped between 75,000 and 100,000 tons on Gaza. If that's not an outrage, then I don't know what your level of outrage is. But we should be pushing back on this every day. And I thank Peace Fresno for taking the leadership on this. And it's very much connected to what's happening in Israel right now. And that's why we have to fight on that front also. But I would also like to take note of personal privilege, and I hope you can bear with me. But I'm really wanting to also draw attention to Dr. Hussam Abu Safia, director of the Kamal Adwan Hospital, who stood up to the IDF and was targeted and severely wounded on November 23rd by an Israeli drone. On December 27th, this is Dr. Safia, a highly respected director of the hospital at Adwan, Kamal Adwan. This is him when he was announcing his opposition to the IDF and his resistance to them shutting down his hospital. And he was resisting the IDF in their evacuation of the hospital. This is him, the last time he was seen in public. He's walking through the ruins of the hospital. He's walking up to Israeli tanks, barefoot and humiliated, to turn himself in, and he hasn't been seen since then. If that's not another outrage, then I don't know what the level of outrage in the United States must be. We pray for his safety. We will not rest until he is returned alive and well, or in whatever condition the Creator is determined, and his abductors are punished. Thank you very much, and thank you, Peace Fresno.
Thank you, Stan. Next, we have our last speaker representing Peace Fresno Coalition. Actually, he's going to be Ken Hudson, Secretary of Peace Fresno, and he will be reading Back from the Brink. And after that, we can all stay here holding signs, and we'll have open mic. Any of you can come in, but please limit your comments to minute and a half to not more than 2 minutes. I will be right here timing you. So just come and make your comment about why you are here, why is it important to save our world, and why you oppose war and imperialism and militarism. Ken Hudson.
I would like to acknowledge Raza Against War, led by Stan, Gloria, and Linda. They have been right here in front of the Federal Building every Wednesday for the past year at 11:30, calling for an end to the genocide in Gaza, and being heard by the senators' offices up in the Federal Building on this side. Two of our U.S. senators have offices up here, and also Representative Jim Costa's office across the street. They have been hearing us for every Wednesday for the past year. How do we know that? Because we've gone up there and they've told us. Good job, Raza Against War. But I'm here right now to read to you a statement from Carol Goyburn, who is the chair of a local anti-nuclear weapons group called Back from the Brink. And she couldn't be here today because she's recruiting students at Fresno City College for these types of events. Here is what she had to say to you. What we need is a peace clock. What we have is a doomsday clock. What we need are 0 nuclear weapons. What we have are around 12,000 nuclear weapons. What we need are 0 countries with nuclear weapons. What we have is 9 countries with nuclear weapons. Every day, the doomsday clock is reset to metaphorically reflect what scientists believe is the time we have until the nuclear bombs drop. Last year, the time was left at 90 seconds to midnight, the closest it's ever been to nuclear Armageddon. But just yesterday, the clock was reset to 89 seconds to midnight. We are even closer to destroying ourselves as well as all the complex life on Earth. Back from the Brink is a national grassroots movement for nuclear weapons abolition with 5 solutions I'd like you to consider. And if you believe, like I do, that these monstrous weapons have no place in civilization, I'd like you to consider ways that you and I can join forces to bring about the following 5 solutions. 1, actively pursuing a verifiable agreement among nuclear-armed states to eliminate their nuclear arsenals. 2, renouncing the option of using nuclear weapons first. 3, ending the sole unchecked authority of any U.S. president to launch a nuclear attack. 4, taking U.S. nuclear weapons off hair trigger alert. And 5, canceling the plan to replace the entire U.S. nuclear arsenal with enhanced weapons. So let's work together to set this doomsday clock back, far back to a time where we once lived without the threat of nuclear war, and where we, our children, and our children's children can once again live out their lives without this monstrous threat hanging over their heads. Let's prioritize our lives for peace, because as Alice Slater states in Peace and Planet News, she says, it's time to transform the clock and change the conversation. Dire warnings about doomsday have done little to increase our world's safety these 77 years. It's time to speak about the many possibilities and missed opportunities to create the new dawning of a peace day. Thank you. Dan?
Thank you, Ken. As I said, this is the end of the speakers from Fresno Peace Coalition, and I want to thank Fresno Peace Coalition for sponsoring and helping us organize, helping Peace Fresno organize the event. And you can stay. We'll be here for probably until about until 1:30. But any of you want to come to the mic and speak for a minute and a half while you are here and just talk to us, you are welcome to do that. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here and supporting this event. Thank you. We will be taking a letter which specify our demands. Those demands are end war in Ukraine, stop military aid to Israel, and join the nuclear weapons ban treaty. So some of us will be going to Senators Adam Schiff and Alex Padilla's office and Jim Costa's office. Thank you.
I think you will find when your deathbed is cold. All the money you made will not buy back your soul.